Welcome in the Geopolitical Situation Room. My name is David Criekemans. As you very well know, Prime Minister May has lost her deal, the so-called May deal for a Brexit. But yesterday, on Wednesday, the 16th of January, she won a confidence vote. And quite important was the votes of the DUP, the Democratic Unionist Party of Northern Ireland, and we will come to that later. The question is now, where does Prime Minister Theresa May stand and what next with Brexit? What are the options? Well, let's have a look at the current situation. What now? Well, of course, important to mention is that the viewpoint of the European Union has always been the so-called four freedoms. And we can trace them back to the Treaty of Rome, where it especially says the elimination of customs duties and of quantitative restrictions on the import and exports of goods, the abolition, as between member states, of obstacles of movement for persons, services and capital. So this really means four freedoms that cannot be interrupted. So the European Union is not a menu à la carte, if you will. Now, Prime Minister May is saying that she will do consultations with other parties and also within her political party. It's not really clear what she's up to. So it might end up with May's deal, but a few modifications later on. She's also maintaining the position that a hard Brexit is still possible at the end of January, which would be disruptive for both the economies of the United Kingdom and the European Union. On the other hand, she has a deadline. Next Monday, the 21st of January, she has to report to the House of Commons on what her intentions are, what route she wants to go further, and perhaps she will need to negotiate with the European Union. Of course, there is the opposition leader, Jeremy Corbyn from Labour, who yesterday lost the confidence vote, of course, because he wanted general elections. He is now asking Prime Minister May to take a no Brexit scenario off the table. And only then is he willing to negotiate with her. Perhaps Labour wants a softer Brexit, for instance, a customs union. And if the whole of the UK would become member of the customs union, that solves more or less the situation in Northern Ireland, but then trade can flow with the EU, of course. Another aspect is that within Labour, of course, some MPs are more campaigning for a people's vote, so another Brexit referendum. Now, most importantly, to analyze the situation is that Prime Minister May on Wednesday, the 16th of January, could only survive thanks to the votes of the DUP, the Democratic Unionist Party of Northern Ireland. They are Protestants, they are for the Union, and they campaigned for a hard Brexit. But of course now they've voted against May's deal because it will create all kinds of problems with Northern Ireland, the so-called backstop situation, which would be extended unlimited, and that they do not want. But on the other hand, the DUP realizes that most of their constituents are perhaps for a more softer variation of Brexit because they do not want a hard border with Ireland. So the question is whether perhaps the DUP would be willing to go for the so-called Norway option. What would be a Norway option? Well, in that case, the United Kingdom would become a member of the EFTA, the European Free Trade Agreement, and also of the European Economic Area. It would remain in the internal market, so that's even better than a customs union, but it would accept no jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice, although it would have to adhere to an EFTA court. Of course, it would be out of the common fisheries policies and out of the common agricultural policies. Also important then that with regard to immigration, this so-called Norway option offers an interesting scenario. There is Article 112 of the agreement of the European Economic Area, of which Norway is a part, Liechtenstein, also Switzerland is adhered to that, which says that under certain circumstances, countries can opt out of the four freedoms if they are facing so-called serious economic, societal, or environmental strain. But it is a little bit fishy, as one could say, whether it's really applicable to this particular situation, although it could offer a way out politically, at least internally within the UK. Now, of course, a last scenario is, of course, a people's vote. And this is what the Scottish National Party wants, the Liberal Democrats want, and perhaps also some members of Labour. Another Brexit referendum, but what question? Because we know May's deal is out. Then, in my analysis, we would almost need four options: Remain, the customs union, an internal market, or a kind of Norway scenario, if you will, or a hard Brexit. Now, whatever route Prime Minister May is going to take, she's going to lose somehow. If she moves in the direction of Norway, she will lose the hard Brexiteers. Certainly, this is something to follow up, and we will follow up this further in the upcoming days and weeks. Thank you for your attention, and see you next time. Bye.